items point 3 and the minutes of the May 2nd regular meeting be adopted. Moved by Councillor Murray and seconded by Councillor Matheson. All those in favor? That is carried. So welcome back, Councillor Murray. We've missed you. All right.
Technologies.
Test 1, 2. Test. Test, 1, 2, test, test. Okay, we're back here. Apologize for the technical problems we're having. We left off that we were just had a motion to go into quarter revision, and the chair of quarter revision, Nicholas, is going to take over at this time. So hopefully we can keep on going here. Nicholas?
Thank you, Walter. I'll call the quarter revision for the Murphy Municipal Drain 2022 hereby at 7:19. So the purpose of the quarter revision will consider the assessment schedule for this municipal drain. And I'll just remind everybody who the members are. Dean Trentowski, Anna Marie Murray, myself, Sherry Bell, and Cheryl Matheson are the members. And the members of the Court of Revision are legally required to act fairly and impartially, whether they declare this publicly as an oath or not. Are there any pecuniary interest by any members of the court? Could I have a couple people to move and a second the May 3rd, 2021 meeting minutes of the Court of Revision? Sherry and Anna Marie. And Ryan, you can't do it. You're not a member. Yep. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. I'll now call on the clerk to advise how notice was given and the purpose of the meeting.
Thank you. Notice of the meeting along with a copy of Provisional Bylaw 33-2022 was given by mail on May 2nd, 2022 to all landowners assessed. The letter advised that any owner may appeal the owner's assessment to the Court of Revision by a notice given to the clerk by May 6, 2022. No correspondence or appeals were received at any time prior to this Court of Revision. Members of the court may hear appeals on 3 grounds. Land or road has been assessed too high or too low. On land or road should have been assessed but has not, or due consideration has not been given to the use of land.
Thank you, Dan. Are there any questions from the members of the court? Are there any questions from landowners participating in the meeting tonight? Seeing none, then I'll ask that we approve the assessment schedule as outlined by Dietrich Engineering dated March 22nd, 2022. Can I have a mover and seconder for that? Cheryl and Anna Marie, all those in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. And I'll take a resolution to adjourn the meeting, please, at 7:22. Dean and Cheryl, all those in favor? It's adjourned. So it's back to you, Walter, and if we have tenders coming up soon too, I think.
Yes, we have tenders later on in the meeting. So thank you, Nicholas. Next item on the agenda is reports, and the first report is from our Chief Building Official. So Bob, take it away, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Building permit activity for the month of April, we had 23 permits issued, just under $5 million in construction value, and 6 zoning certificates for sales of property and refinancing. Permits are listed.
Any questions for Bob on that report? Okay. Anything else, Bob?
Still getting busy, Your Worship. Steady year.
That's what you want.
Yes.
Okay, if there's no questions, the recommendation here is that the Council of the Municipality of West Perth accepts the April permit summary report as information. Do we have a mover and seconder for that? Councillor Rose, and seconded by Councillor Murray. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. Thank you. Next report then is the Fire Chief's report, and I'll turn it over to Chief Hunter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The report tonight is fire department activity for March and April. Council can see that this report includes the search for the missing child on Whirl Creek, which was a considerable amount of time over the 9 days. Also during the period, we completed our successful recruitment process to replace or fill 2 vacancies, brought us up to our council approved allotment of firefighters. And in April, the firefighters had their first breakfast since the pandemic began, and they fed over 800 people.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Any questions for Chief Hunter? Okay, anything else to report on, Bill?
No, thank you.
Okay, very good. So recommendation then that the Council of Municipality of West Perth accepts the March-April 2022 West Perth Fire Department Activity Report as information. Moved by Councillor Bell, seconded by Councillor Duck. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. Thank you. Next is the library report for the month of April. And Rosemary, I'll let you give us that report, please.
Come on.
Very good. We can hear you.
Good. I can't see you quite yet, but anyway, good evening, Your Worship and members of Council. Library Board met on April 26th, and I believe you have the meeting minutes in front of you. The Library Board members primarily discussed the strategic planning process. They are going to create their new strat plan this year, and they're entering phase 2, which is the consultations phase. There are 4 phases, and the consultation phase is going to include a survey, both online and in person, along with conversations with members of the public that hopefully will take place at community events and activities as they come up this spring and summer. What we hope to do with this survey and these conversations is to find out what residents of West Perth want and need. And from that information, we then look at planning programs, services, and offering resources that will address these. And also the 21st century literacies that are all outlined in the library's programming plan. Also in front of you is a list of grants that the library has access to on an annual basis. And this is a list that Councillor Trenkowski was asking about a month ago. And this is the same list that was presented to the library board for information. Anytime the library does apply for any of these grants, and whether or not we're successful is reviewed with the library board for their advice. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you, Rosemary. Questions for Rosemary with regards to the library? Don't see any hands going up. You're getting off lucky here. Recommendation is that the Council Municipality of West Perth accepts the West Perth Public Library Board meeting report as information. We have a mover and seconder, moved by Councillor Murray, seconded by Councillor Matheson. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Thank you. Very good.
Thank you.
Next report is from the operations manager. So, Mike, I'll turn it over to you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight in front of you is May's operations report. It's quite self-explanatory. You can see that May has started, so the large majority of our projects have commenced and started. Some of them were delayed this morning due to the rain, but everything should be proceeding tomorrow as scheduled. Is there any questions?
Any questions for Mike? I have to tell you, I never got a single call today about dust.
Well, the rain helped.
It sure did, but it was.
Yeah. We only received 6 trucks last week, and we've asked for more this week, but they're very hard to come by. It's a busy time of season, not only with dust control throughout this area, but also the farmers and the delivery of fertilizers and everything else. So it's quite hard to get trucks these days.
Okay, if there's no questions, I want to thank you, Mike. Recommendation here then is that the Municipality of West Perth accepts the May operations report as information. We have a mover and seconder for that, Councillor Trenkowski, and seconded by Councillor Rose. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Thank you. Next up is the Recreation Facilities and Park Managers Report. Darcy, you're live and well here, so I'll let you take it away.
Thank you, Mayor McKenzie and Council. So my report is a follow-up from my last report, where I said I was going to bring some options as far as Kitterson Pavilion and the over-budget tender results. I did work with Dolly Engineering to come up with some changes to the outline of the building. The building did get shorter, and the square footage did go down. We feel that this square footage is more in line to overall get the budgeted amount. I think the only other thing I would highlight is that we would go out to the 5 bidders that closed for a reprice. So we would use the 5 bidders that have already bid on the project for a reprice. That is my recommendation. So I think you had the weekend to review. I will gladly take any questions in the new design.
Okay, thank you, Darcy. Questions on Darcy's report? Councillor Tam first.
Hi, Darcy. I guess my question is, it doesn't mention any numbers, and I'm not sure if it'd be a good idea to, the way the last one came in, but is this targeted towards the original budget number, or what are we thinking?
Correct, yeah. So we used kind of the square footage price of the original, or the pavilion that we did tender, and then we reduced the square footage to this one to equal what we think would be right at the right around the budgeted amount of the 1.3 million.
Thank you.
Councillor Trenkowski had a question.
Through you, your worship, Darcy, what's the submission date for this second round of tenders?
So if we do pass it, if it does get passed tonight, we would go right away to working on getting the tender documents. Obviously, we got to redraw all the tenders, redo all the finishes and stuff, and Dolly Engineering's will work on that. We're hoping to be done as soon as possible, and then we figure a 2 to 3 week window to have the 5 bidders reprice. And I would say we're probably looking at a mid-September as a start of construction and hoping to be ready to go by mid to late May next year.
I guess I didn't catch that, Darcy. When will the prices be submitted? When will council see the next set of prices again is my question. Thanks.
Okay, sorry, Councillor Trenteschi. I don't know exactly how quickly Dolly can get the new drawings done. We would do them as quick as possible. I haven't talked to Nelson in regards to how quick that can be done, but I would think we would be at least 2 to 3 weeks to get the drawings done, and then another 2 or 3 weeks to get it repriced. So you're probably looking at 6 to 8 weeks when we would get a new price.
Councillor Rose?
Yes, Darcy. How much did we actually have to shrink it to get within this budget?
So I believe it's approximately 12, and sorry, I don't have those numbers right on me, but 12 feet thinner, and I believe it's another 8 or 10 feet shorter. That's rough. I can look up the exact amount if you give me a second, but we went from about 12,000 square feet to 8,000 square feet.
So do we feel that the covered pavilion portion is still going to be big enough to cover the needs that we originally thought we needed? Is that
yeah? So we did have a group meeting with all the user groups, the building working group, and they did feel that we did meet all the needs that they wanted. One of the big questions was, is basketball still able to be played? We do feel like we were able to get a bit of a different truss setup too that gained us a couple feet, because we are going 4 feet shorter, but the truss setup gives us a few feet in the middle. So what we obviously won't have a regulation sized basketball court by any means, but there would be the ability to play like a 3-on-3 game with a short court, and we have about 30 to 40 feet where you could make a shot at the basket. You're not getting the 50 to 60 feet wide that you would be able to, but you have 30 or 40 feet that you could make a shot at the basket.
I guess I just wanted to make sure that being Mitchell is expanding and growing, that we do have the size for our youth that's coming up, as well as our other or people that want to use it, that it's still going to be able to be a multi-use building, not that in 3 or 4 years we realize it's too small and then try to add to it, which will be a lot more than what we're saving. So I'm just wondering if this still works, or which is the best way to go, even though it might be over budget.
Right, and I appreciate that, and that was a bit of a conversation. I know Mayor McKenzie and Councillor Harold were on the meeting. I know there was one group member that said, I don't want to see this pavilion get any smaller, because I think this is just meeting what we need, and this community is going to grow. So that's kind of where we're at. We think it will meet it. It will let us grow. It's no bigger than that, and I wouldn't recommend going any smaller.
Okay, other questions or comments? And Darcy kind of mentioned it, I guess, in his comments. Like, we did shrink it width-wise, but it was also shrunk height-wise. And that was mentioned as well, the impact on basketball. But as Darcy indicated, they've looked at some trusses that actually we gained a bit on height from what we thought we were going to have. And we don't have as high a ceiling as we had initially, but the group representing the basketball people seemed to be satisfied with what was trying to be accomplished here. So if there's no Councillor Vink, sorry, go ahead.
I wasn't quite clear then on the next process. So you'll get some drawings, meet with the committee, and then send it out, or come back to council, or what are the next steps, in which order? Oh,
So yeah, so if council gives me or passes the recommendation today, which is to work with Delhi Engineering and re-release the tender using these drawings that I've included in, then I would work with Nelson. We did have a committee meeting. I feel like they have passed the final design. It's just a matter of doing the finishes and getting the drawings. So I think to not to delay it anymore, I would get Nelson to do the tender ready drawings as quickly as he can, and then re-release to the 5 bidders that. So it wouldn't go to public bids and tenders. It would just be re-released to the 5 bidders that closed in the original tender for repricing. And then we'd give them 2 to 3 weeks, and then I would come back to council with the results of the repricing.
so the drawing that we see in our council package is the new sized drawing.
Correct.
Okay, and I would just remind council of how we got into this predicament. When we asked for estimates and prices, that was back in 2019, and that's when the grant, what was sent in for the grant. We got the announcement that we were successful with the grant, but we couldn't say anything until it was made public. And as a result, here we are going for tenders in 2002, some 3 years after we were initially involved. So, I think you can look around at anything that you would price what it was 3 years ago and what it is today, and you can see the situation that we were in. And as was said previously, we did send an email or an inquiry to the powers that be, both the feds and provincial, and what you get is what you get. You suck it up and either raise some more money or cut your costs down, one or the other. So that's what we're trying to do here. So, yes. Sherry, you had a question?
Yeah, sorry. I apologize. I wasn't able to make the building meeting the other day. So maybe this question's been answered. When you shrunk down the building, we didn't change the integrity of the building at all. We're not losing any insulation or anything that will affect the longevity. I know in some other projects, when you do that to save money, you sort of shorten the lifespan, but we didn't do that, correct?
That is correct. We didn't lose any insulation in any of that form. Really, we lost square footage. We lost storage space. The municipality lost a lot of storage space that we were going to use with the old municipal office, becoming the new municipal office. But as far as the integrity of the building, insulation, heating, anything like that, we did not lose anything.
Okay, just another follow-up. And again, I apologize since I missed the meeting if it's been answered. This doesn't affect the funding. I know we're not getting any more, but when we placed the funding, we asked for the size and shape, and this isn't going to affect the funding when we change this, lessen the building?
We do not see that as a fear. I have been in contact with ISIP, and once this is approved, I will send them the new drawings just to ensure that we're all on the same page. But I don't see it because we are keeping the same uses. We are still able to do the multi-use pavilion. I don't see it as an issue, and we don't have any fear that's an issue, but we will be transparent with ISIP in regards to the changes.
Okay, so that said, do we have a backup plan if we are losing funding since we've changed the project size and scope?
At this point, no. I think I would have to come back to council if that was the case. But as I said, as staff, we do not have that fear right now.
I guess in answer to that, Councillor Bell, I would say the answer that we got from the inquiry was giving us a couple options as to what to do. You either come up with more money on your own, or you downsize and meet the expectations. So I look at that. That's the suggestion that they had. So, okay. Any other questions? If not, we have a recommendation here that Municipality of West Perth directs the Recreation and Facilities Manager to work with Dolly Engineering to update the tender ready documents with the new scope, and that the 5 original bidders be invited to submit tenders on the revised scope of work. We have a mover and seconder for that recommendation, Councillor Harold, seconded by Councillor Matheson. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Motion is carried. Thank you. Okay, next up we have Wendy with her budget to actual. So Wendy, I'll let you give us the good news. Good news.
Good evening, Mayor McKenzie and Council. So before you is the, as of the end of April, the consolidated budget to actuals. Things are looking to be on schedule. We are reporting a favorable outcome right now. And some highlights I'd like just to bring to you on in the report is that the pool revenue is higher, and we've had some really good uptake on the lessons. And then another one just to note is the road department wages. They're showing high, but that's just because the wages haven't been distributed yet to the various functions. So if there's any questions, I gladly take them.
Hey, thanks, Wendy. Any questions for Wendy with regards to the budget to actual? Okay, I don't see any hands going up. So the recommendation is that Municipality of West Perth accepts the West Perth budget to actual as part of the April 30th, 2022 report as information. Moved by Councillor Rose, seconded by Councillor Duck. Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. And you've got a bit of a report on development charges.
Yes. So in our development charges bylaw, there's a provision in there to make an annual adjustment for indexing our charges. So we've looked at that, and with the pricing that we're seeing on some of our tenders, et cetera, we felt that applying the index would be appropriate. So in the Development Charges Act, you can increase it by the non-residential building rate set by Stats Canada, and comparing the two quarters. And doing that, it came out to an increase of 8.8%. So if there's any questions on that, and also in the financial part of the report, you can see the changes in the prices.
Okay, thanks, Wendy. Questions for Wendy on that report? Councillor Bink?
I think we've had some discussion in the past on development charges and when they get implemented. Does this give enough time for the building industry, if they would like to get them paid up before the change on June 30th, that they'd have that opportunity to lock in the up until now price? And then I see in your report also that there is some phase in coming in 2023 as well too. Is that something, a recommendation that you're recommending this next phase in 2023, or will that be decided in the next development charges bylaw coming up?
Sure. So that phase in is part of the original development charges bylaw, and it just has the 8.8% increase applied across the phase in. So that's part of the original bylaw. Just the 8% was applied.
I didn't quite follow that. So when I'm looking at the chart on page 97, so we have our current development charges. Well, I'll use a single detached at $7,332, going up by 8% starting on July 1st. But then January 1st, 2023, it jumps by about 25%.
Yeah, so that would be part of the original bylaw. So the original bylaw being 63 2019, there was a phase in for our rates. And so what I've done is applied the 8% across the phase in. So every year there's an increase up until September 2024. And so I've just added 8% or 8.8% to each. So being the increase starting effective July 1st, increased it by 8.8%. And then again in January of 2023, and again in January 2024. But based on the bylaw and the way it's written is that we can index again starting January 1st. We've just maybe in the past haven't indexed, and the reason for indexing currently is just because of the raise in tendering pricing that we have seen this year.
Thank you. And so to my first question, can I lock in now if I have a project ongoing? Can I pay the development charges or lock in the development charges before July 1st of this year?
That's a really great question. I think it goes by the building permit. So I'm not sure if Bob or Jeff can help me out with that one.
Yes, I can. So yes, the developer, if they're submitting their building permit applications, that's when they pay their development charges. So if they want to take advantage of the get in before the price increase takes effect, they could by ensuring that they get their application in before June 30th. And we'll obviously be promoting that we've made this change. And I just want to emphasize that development charges are designed to allow new development to pay for new development. Our costs have gone up. The construction index is the indicator of our costs. That's what the legislation allows. That's what the bylaw anticipates. But in the previous low inflation market, we haven't indexed. We've had phased in, and we're phased in for the full life of the bylaw to kind of give a phase in on what those prices were when we approved the bylaw in 2019. But as you will all know, the construction index has really changed our costs. So that's why we're bringing this price increase in. The phasing will continue because that was set in the original bylaw. And you may hear a report back from us at council another year asking for another index, because this is a case where staff have to recommend to council that you need to protect the existing tax base from having to pay for new development when they've already paid their share. And so development charges, we just, in this high inflation environment, it's forced us into having to index, and we feel it's the prudent thing to do.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Any other questions, either for Jeff or for Wendy? Clear as mud, right? I have a recommendation here, and I will read it, that the municipality of West Perth approves an 8.8% increase to the development charges rate in accordance to bylaw 63, 2019, section 75, and that the approved rates come into effect on July 1st, 2022. We have a mover and seconder for that recommendation. Moved by Councillor Matheson, second by Deputy Mayor Wright. Ready for the question? All those in favor? Just keep your hands up as I look around here. Okay, opposed, if any? That is carried. Thank you. All right, thanks, Wendy. Moving on then, next is the draft recognition from council policy, and our clerk will have that report for us. So Dan?
Thank you, Your Worship, and good evening, Council. Before Council today is a draft policy, which we've called recognition from Council. We are just bringing this forward for information today to Council for feedback and any suggested changes and edits. So we're not looking for approval tonight. Basically, what the policy looks to outline is that when we are recognizing different events, whether it's through the mayor delegating authority to write letters, present awards, trophies, plaques, that sort of thing, which we've been lucky enough as a community to do some of that this year so far. In addition, we're also looking to capitalize on our current assets and digital lighting at the fire hall clock tower, as well as the new gemstone lights on the Welcome Center. So we're looking to utilize those to recognize awareness events in the community that we often get asked to recognize traditionally through the flying of flags. We're looking to not fly any more flags than we need to, so we'll just fly our standard flags, and we'll not have to have multiple flags on reserve and switching them out as required. I will just note quickly that it's a policy that a lot of people in Perth County have been looking at and working through. We did have a request to fly a flag from Stratford Perth Pride. Through a conversation with them, I kind of explained this policy to them, and they had no issues with it, and they were just very happy that we were looking at recognizing Pride Month, Pride Day through any means necessary throughout the community. If there's any questions or comments on the draft policy, I'd be happy to answer them.
Questions for Dan? I guess on that line, there's only one flag that we've raised recently, and that was the Clearview flag, through no fault of our own. I'm not sure if it's still up. I never looked tonight, but we were going to leave it up for a week. So that was part of the wager between the mayor of Clearview and myself. So, okay. The recommendation here then is that the municipality of West Perth accepts the draft recognition from council policy as information. Mover and seconder for that, please. Councillor Rose, Councillor Bell. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Thank you. And the next is also the clerk's report with the municipal council and school board election procedures. Dan?
Thank you again, Your Worship. I'm just bringing forward the municipal council and school board election clerk procedures for information. I'm willing to take any feedback or identify any mistakes anyone may have found in there through reading through that large document, but it's part of the Municipal Act legislation that the clerk needs to produce that report prior to June and provide to any candidates picking up nominations packages. So I just wanted to get it out in the open, out in the public now. Hopefully spread a little more awareness that there is a municipal and school board election upcoming if people haven't heard already, and open to any comments or questions about the election that may still be pending or not clear at this point in time.
Okay, questions? And I'm looking in one direction here, but we're good. We're good, are we, Murray? The report's good. Okay. Anybody else? I didn't try to throw you under the bus, Murray. But... Okay, I have a recommendation here that the municipality of West Perth accepts the 2022 municipal council and school board election clerk procedures as information. We have a mover and seconder for that, please. Councillor Vink and Councillor Rose. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. Okay, moving on, we do have the tender results for the Murphy drain that we held the quarter revision on earlier this evening. So Dan, I'll turn that over to you as well.
Thank you again, Your Worship. The tender results are there. We are not going, we're not recommending the lowest bidder at this time, just simply for the fact that the middle bidder can get the work done this year. If council wish to go to the lowest bid, then they would push the project out until next year. If there's any questions about that process, we're happy to answer them.
Is it just a typo? When I'm looking at the report here, it says it's not going to be completed until August 30th, 2023. Should that be 2022 or?
No, it would be when project completion is for final sign off and everything on the project.
So they would have the one I'm looking at here, Hater, for $6,000 cheaper, would have it done in 2 months, and it would not be done sooner than July 31st, 2023. August.
I think from we can go back and review it quickly, but what I think is the bulk of the work will be done, and the rest of that's just the final sign off. That's going to be taking longer. But just give me a second and I'll pull up the report.
Yeah, we can come back to that if you want, Dan. I had the same question as Ryan. I looked at it, and you had mentioned it would be completed earlier, but yet it's later on the sheet there. So yeah, we can go ahead and we'll deal with the correspondence while Dan looks that up, if that's okay. So we do have a couple items of correspondence. One is from the Mitchell District Ag Society regarding the annual fall fair, September 2nd to the 4th. And The recommendation that we have here is that West Perth declares the annual fall fair by the Mitchell and District Ag Society on September 2nd to the 4th, 2022 to be a municipal significance and or community significance, and advise the Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario that it has no objection to it taking place. I'll get a mover and seconder, and then I'll ask if there's any discussion. So moved by Councillor Rose. Do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Duck. Any discussion with regards to that letter? It's fairly straightforward, and I think we deal with it every year. Okay, so it's been duly moved and seconded. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. The next is a letter from the Rotary Club of Mitchell regarding the Pied Piper parade on July 1st. And this is again a traditional thing that we do, and it's kind of nice to see us getting back into these annual things again that we used to have all the time. I'll read the motion, and then we'll see if we can get a mover and seconder for it. That Municipality of West Perth approves the request submitted by the Rotary Club of Mitchell to provide Lions Park for the Pied Piper Parade to be held on July 1st, 2022. Do we have a mover and seconder for that, please? Moved by Councillor Harold, seconded by Councillor Murray. All those in favor? That is also carried. And the next one is the Dublin and District Lions Club regarding Dublin Fest, June the 17th and 18th. And the recommendation is here that the Municipality of West Perth declares Dublin Fest held by Dublin and District Lions Club on June 17th to 18th, 2022 to be of municipal significance and or community significance, and advise the Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario that it has no objections to it taking place. Do we have a mover and seconder for that one as well? Moved by Councillor Trinkowski and seconded by, Sherry, sorry, I didn't see your hand. Councillor Bell. Any questions on that one? All those in favor? That is also carried. And then we also have a letter here from the Stratford Perth Pride Board of Directors. The letter was included in your information package. I'll read the recommendation, and we'll get a mover and seconder for that. And then if there's any discussion, we'll deal with it at that time. Municipality of West Perth directs staff to reply to the Stratford Perth Pride that the municipality will fly a digital flag on the digital sign and light the clock tower and welcome center lights on the rainbow colors to spread awareness about Pride Month from June 16th until June the 30th, 2022. Do we have a mover and seconder for that recommendation? Moved by Councillor Rose, seconded by Councillor Murray. Any discussion on that one? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Ministry of Northern Mines and Development, Natural Resources and Forestry, the letter regarding proposed regulation changes under the Aggregate Resources Act. No recommendation there, it was just for information. Ministry of Transportation regarding Connecting Link winter maintenance contractors. Well, maybe, no, I think the information was there, and I'm sure that Mike will have some comments with regards to that, unless there's somebody that has a question on it. Okay, if there's no further questions, a recommendation that Council of the Municipality of West Perth accepts the correspondence as information. I have a mover and seconder for that. Moved by Councillor Murray and seconded by Councillor Rose. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. And we'll back up maybe to Dan's report about the Murphy drain. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. And thank you for the question, Councillor Duck. We looked back and reviewed, and the dates are correct. Really, all I can add at this point to the conversation is that the dates are on or before by. So we felt with Robinson starting sooner that they may kind of over deliver on that, but I think we're happy to look at entertaining the other recommendation to go with the cheaper option. I think it's really a matter up to council, or we can bring back more information and try and uncover and go back as to why there's such a long stretch there. But I think it's all dependent on the season.
Councillor Trzaskowski.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I think it's not included in this report, but in the drainage report prepared by the engineer, if I'm not mistaken, there was a clause from the Department of Fisheries and Oceans said that there was to be no in-water work, I believe March 15th to July 15th. Is that correct?
Thanks. Sorry. I'd have to go back and review the report. I don't know that off the top of my head.
What I'm getting at is that if you went with the lowest bid, which is the AG Hader, May 1st to July 31st, they wouldn't be able to complete the in-water work until the last 2 weeks of the duration that they've given. So I think on that basis, it would be wise to accept the Robinson bid on the pretext that they would get the in-water work done outside of that window, and also that they would get the work started, and potentially they would want to complete that work before the 2023 cropping season starts, which would be an advantage to the landowners.
Thanks, Councillor Trzaskowski, and I do believe you're correct. I think I remember reading that in the report. The Oceans and Fisheries had comments in there. So, and that's not unusual for them to request that. So with that in mind, and I got to back up here a little bit. Just bear with me here. Find the recommendation. So the original recommendation that came out in our package is that West Perth award the construction of the Murphy Municipal Drain 2022 to the bid submission received from Robinson Farm Drainage Limited in the amount of $198,686 plus HST. So at this time, I'll ask for a mover and seconder if everybody's okay with that. Moved by Councillor Trzaskowski. Do we have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Matheson, thank you. Any further discussion? I think we've kind of uncovered the reason that maybe we didn't pick the lowest one, because I don't think it could happen in that time frame.
I'll just add that our drainage superintendent had pointed out that the work being around the cropping season as well, and we were able to go through the report. And Councillor Trzaskowski, you were right on the no in-water work between March and July 15th. So thank you.
Okay, it's duly moved and seconded. All those in favor of that recommendation? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Okay. Brings us to council reports. And the first report is the BIA minutes of April the 6th. And Councillor Bell, is there anything you'd like to highlight there?
No, I have nothing to add unless anyone has any questions. It's a pretty thorough report. Thanks.
Any questions for Councillor Bell on that? Okay. The next one is the Uppercams River Conservation Authority Board of Directors meeting it was actually the agenda for April the 26th. And I'm not sure, Anna Marie, were you back by then or not? No, okay. Any questions on that? Okay, moving on then, the recommendation is that the municipality of West Perth accepts the reports from councillors as information. We have a mover and seconder for that, Councillor Bink, and a seconder, Councillor Murray. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. We do have a bylaw, one bylaw tonight, and it's bylaw 39, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 72, 2019, being a bylaw requiring an emergency management program, emergency coordinator, program committee, and plan for protection of public safety, health, the environment, the critical infrastructure and property, and to promote economic stability and a disaster resilient community. That's a real mouthful. Anyways, just before we deal with that, Dan, do you want to kind of highlight what we're doing here?
Thank you, Your Worship. So as we work through our emergency management operations and our emergency management programming through assistance with David Clark at the county, who's been doing, in my opinion, a tremendous job guiding us through this. We're really just cleaning up all our bylaws and all our files. So in this one, we're simply bringing in this case, actually, the mayor off of the emergency management program committee. And it really just makes compliance matters easy when we're trying to gather the committee and everything to meet our mandatory compliance checks. The mayor doesn't always need to be there, but he's always welcome. So it's just simplifying the process.
Okay, any questions? I'm beginning to get an inferiority complex. They kicked me off that committee and they don't want me on Seaforth Fire Board anymore. So bylaw is here, or the recommendation for the bylaws here, sorry. And it is that the municipality of West Perth gives first, second, and third and final reading to bylaw 39, 2022, the 16th day of May. We have a mover and seconder for that. Councillor Duck and Councillor Rose. All those in favor? That is carried. And I think Dan mentioned this is very similar to what the rest of the lower tiers are doing in the county. So we're just being consistent with everybody else. All right, moving on. A number of coming events coming up. The 26th is the Earth Annual Meeting. And I think Labitza or Dan had asked if anybody else was going. He wanted to know by a certain date. I don't know what that date was, but I assume if anybody can be added, can still be added?
We can still be added, but we've sent in our list already, but I'm sure we could get a hold of Earth and add someone that needs to be added.
All right. Our next regular meeting will be June the 6th, and then June the 20th, and then July 4th and 18th. Hard to think that we're already into June already, you know? That's the way it goes. Any notices of motion? I don't believe there are. Any other business to be brought up at this time? We do have a closed session tonight, and recommendation here that municipality of West Perth proceeds into a closed session at 8:10 for the purpose of addressing a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, real estate and surplus, litigation or potential litigation, water and wastewater. So do we have a mover and go into closed session this time? Moved by Councillor Rose, seconded by Councillor Bell. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Okay, coming out of closed session, council received updates from the CAO on a legal matter and 2 real estate matters. And council has provided the CAO with direction on those matters. So that brings us down to the end. And just before we do the confirmatory bylaw, and I probably should have done this under other business, but I think it's about time that we did a council picture, and I'm wondering June the 6th or June the 20th that are in meetings in June. If there's one date there that would suit you and we try and line that up. We might have to meet a little early, just ahead of a council meeting and do it. And I guess my question to you is, where would you like to do it? It would be the last one that would be done if we did it outside with the old building in the background, which I think would be kind of nice. Otherwise, if we do it in here, we got to move the tables and that. So everybody okay? Do you have a preference for which date? Yeah, okay. You can just do a Google poll or Doodle poll, whatever. Yeah, okay. No, that's fine. That's fine. Then we'll go there and we'll remind you when it gets closer to the date which one. I wondered that as well, Sherry, whether that would be a suggestion. And then if it rains, yep, if it rains, yeah. So we can do that too, whatever. We'll try and line it up. So I would think that we would want to start or do that at 6:30, and then council meeting at 7. So that's okay with everybody. All right. So the next one then is the confirmatory bylaw number 40, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of Corporation Municipality of West Perth be read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed the 16th day of May. Mover and seconder for that, please. Councillor Tam, and seconded by Deputy Mayor Ait. All in favor? And the one we've been waiting for, that the Council of Municipality of West Perth adjourn at 9:01 p.m. Moved by Councillor Rose. We have a seconder. Nobody wants to leave. Councillor Duck. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you.
Recording stopped.